Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Snap Material Podcast. That's right. You're tuning in here to hear us, two middle-aged men, talk about that snazzy mobile game, Marvel Snap. And we're going to either praise or complain in our
I've been
grumpy
playing
old man way.
Marvel-based card games since back when they were, physical media, okay?
Physical cardboard in your hands.
Overpower
cards. My goodness. Great stuff. That's Evan Bevins over there. I'm Jesse Starcher. Welcome to the show. Listen, we're about to talk about our experience with the previous season, Loki For All Time. We'll get into some popular decks or some trends that we had saw during the season. We'll talk about what we unlocked, our variants that showed up here this past month. And we're going to have a battle. And oh my goodness, am I not prepared for that? But we will be when you hear it. It's going to be amazing. And then we will get into talking about our upcoming season, Bloodstone, which started October 2nd. We're recording this on October 3rd right now.
If they called it Elsa, it might draw in a different audience,
Right. A lot of Disney.
They may have thought about it and then just decided to let it go.
Oh, there it is. So we'll talk about the upcoming season, the cards, and the locations that'll be happening in October. And then our top 5 is going to be our top 5 scariest cards. And that was... it was a bit of a challenge for me, although I came up with, I think, some pretty good ones because a lot of those cards scare me. And that's, I think, what we were shooting for. So let's go ahead. We'll talk about this past season, Loki For All Time. And if there isn't a time-centered season of Snap, that's definitely going to catch my eye. That's for sure. Our first card that dropped in the season, the one that came with the season pass, was Loki, a 3/5 on reveal. Replace your hand with cards from your opponent's starting deck, giving them -1 cost. So I didn't spend the money this season. Did you?
No.
Okay.
I did not. I was a little tempted this season because I like Elsa Bloodstone. I mean, the character, I haven't seen the card enough to make a decision on it. Nah, I didn't do it.
Okay. Well, I ran into him plenty of times. That's for sure. I can tell you I did not like having to go up against a deck that centered around Loki, which usually was Loki and the Collector.
Yep.
So you watched the hand get replenished, and that, of course, pumped the Collector up. And I didn't like getting beat by my own cards. That just left a really bad taste in my mouth. I would sit there and I would play, and I'd be like, oh, crap, I've got these cards in my hand, but I have a really bad feeling that he has these same cards in his hand, and he's going to be able to play them for a little bit less. I didn't like it. So how about you? Any experience with Loki over the season?
I saw him all the time. I kind of feel like he's undercosted or overpowered or both.
Okay.
I mean, he's the same cost and 1 point more than Coulson.
Right.
And I think he's way better than Coulson.
Yeah. Right.
Although, I don't know if you ever insert sound clips on here, but the one of Coulson shooting Loki in Avengers would be great right here.
Your heroes are scattered. Your floating fortress falls from the sky. Where is my disadvantage?
You lack conviction.
I don't think
So that's what it does.
Coulson's cooler than Loki. Anyway, in the movies anyway. I was seeing him so often that I got an idea to make an anti-Loki deck.
Okay.
Which was just recycling a deck, an idea for a deck I had. I forget, it was one of the featured locations where, I can't remember which one it was, if it was the cloning vats, but where I knew everybody would be getting more cards. I think it was cloning vats, where everybody would be getting more cards in their hand. Mm-hmm. So I decided to hedge my bets and put Devil Dinosaur and Ronin in the same deck, and then cards to support them both.
Nice.
So I figured if my opponent's going to be copying my deck, then I'd have, Ronin and Devil Dinosaur, so he would have cards that would support either one of them. It didn't really work.
Did not work.
Nope. Just bounced around. Had to go back to my my go-to deck this season, to make any actual progress. But we'll save that for later. That's a tease, folks.
Well, that's a tease.
So yeah, it didn't. It seemed like a good idea, but didn't really work too well in practice.
Okay. So next up is Goliath. 6 cost, 5 power. On reveal, destroy all enemy cards played here this turn, including unrevealed cards. My first note on this was that there is a lot of dislike for Goliath out there, specifically because of the ultra powerful combo that included him with Galactus. So much so that the devs, I think Second Dinner, they looked at this and they were like, "Oh, we can't have this." So they were like, "Okay, well, what can we do?" And they erred on the side of they nerfed the cards that worked with Goliath the best instead of nerfing Goliath itself. And that upset a lot of people, especially Galactus fans, because I assume there's probably plenty of people out there that play Galactus that don't have Goliath in their deck. And now all of a sudden that deck's worthless, or at least it's really, really hurt. So the combos that Goliath brought, it was game-changing enough to where the devs are like, okay, we've got to do something to correct this. I can kind of see that argument a little bit. I did want to bring up the fact that week, which was the week of September 12th through September 19th, there were 3 cards, along with the variant, that you could get by using your cash. And when I say cash, folks, I hope you understand that CACHE, not CASH. So in that week was Goliath, Snow Guard, which got a buff.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's a lot of Snow Guard in the second half of the season.
So did I. And I started to try and kind of play with putting a deck together to use Snow Guard. And then the third card was Hit Monkey. I have one of those 3 cards, and that was Snow Guard. I've thought about Hit Monkey a lot, but Goliath was a pretty big card, and I was really tempted to spend my cash at that point. The problem is that we still had Ravonna, Renslayer, and Mobius to come. So I had to save my stuff, but I will say that I did not like playing against people with Goliath decks. I hated it. Hated it.
I guess I didn't see him as much. I mean, I did get beat by Goliath a few times, and it was frustrating. I was playing a friendly game with somebody, and he had Goliath, and like just the whole rest of the time I was preparing for Goliath. In a case like that, when you know he's coming, I was thinking about like, okay, well, I should hedge my bets and play in 2 places, so you can prepare for him. My knee-jerk reactions about Goliath are, and again, I know it's based on the Loki show, and last month you reminded me that Goliath was in that. My problem is, card that good, and it's a character like even big old nerds like me had to go, wait, who is that? which is totally unrelated to the game, because you've never once heard me go, why'd they make Infinite so powerful?
Yeah.
Because I like Infinite. The other thing is, when you were talking about, the hate and frustration for Goliath and always too good, I'm like, oh, so you nerf the ones around him, but you know who he's still better than? The leader.
Oh,
that's
yes.
right. I'm still hanging on to this leader thing, because I think Goliath is better and more threatening than the leader. Maybe not in his original form. Maybe because if you play Goliath on the right spot, you lock down and win the game. And if you played old school original leader on the right spot, you lock down and win the game.
Yes, you did. That's right.
So I'm like, hey, where's this, kid gloves treatment for the leader?
Right. Right.
But that may also be as irrational as going, well, Elias shouldn't be that good because I don't know who he is. I don't know. I didn't find him to be game breaking. Yeah, a little frustrating when they play him. He's not unstoppable.
It seemed like every time I tried to play that one spot was sure enough where Goliath was going to get laid down, and boom, I lost the game. I was like, oh gosh, and I didn't even have a chance to turn my card over.
Yeah. Let me just say, if we ever do a top 5 of most frustrating cards, Goliath might make the list, but he wouldn't be at the top.
Okay. All right, then. All right, next up, Ravonna Renslayer. 3 cost, 3 power, ongoing. Your cards with 1 or less power cost 1 less. And boy, did I think that this was going to be something, and I made sure to get it.
Oh, yeah.
Ravonna was one that I either maybe spent some spotlight caches on to get her.
I dropped 4 on that spotlight cache.
Did you really?
Yep.
Yeah. So then that means you got Jean Grey.
Yes.
Did you already have Jean Grey? I think you did, didn't you?
I did not. No, I did not have.
Okay.
I didn't have any of that. I didn't have Jean Grey. I didn't have Zabu. I did get 1,000 tokens that would come in handy later. I will say that out of that spotlight cache, I was pumped about Ravana too, and she's probably my third favorite card out of that spotlight cache.
Okay.
Based on actual usage.
Yeah, I think I dropped all my caches, at least because I ended up with Jean Grey, Ravana, and that Zabu variant. I don't think I got a mystery variant. Maybe I did, but I got at least, I spent 3 and got Ravana at that point. Man, I didn't use her hardly at all. I thought I would. I mean, I did have a few decks and ran with those decks for a little bit, but not enough to where it made me go, okay, I can build something around this and make it successful. I was using the goblins. Like I said, I was trying to get them out there. Mr. Negative, to me, felt like it kind of worked against Ravana. Even though you get Mr. Negative out there a little bit cheaper, well, everything that you have in your hand, then the power switches. And I never tried it, but I had assumed then you're just kind of stuck with, those cards aren't affected by Ravana then because all the power is above 1.
Well, but what I know this has happened to me a lot this season because I used Ravana and Mr. Negative a lot. What's the biggest problem with a Mr. Negative deck?
You ain't drawing Mr. Negative.
That's right. So if you're not drawing Mr. Negative, you've got a bunch of cards that Ravana can lower the cost of.
Okay.
Of course, then they don't score that many points, but that's why you always have a Jane Foster in there too.
You know what? That's a good point.
So that was the philosophy anyway. I can't say I had a ton of luck. But I tried like 2 different Mr. Negative decks with her. I also put her in because, like you said, she's good with the goblins. So I put her in my good old Stealth Destroy deck that has goblins in it. I tried her a couple other places, but she kept getting pushed out of decks by maybe the featured card I was least interested in the history of Snap, Zabu. She kept getting pushed out by Zabu. And there's no logic here because I am a big fan of Jeff being included in this, so I love obscure weird characters, but I don't know, Zabu wasn't obscure or weird enough for me for some reason, or I don't know. It's just like, I'm not that big a Khazar guy.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Khazar, I don't know. So I did not give Zabu the respect he deserved.
Wow.
But Zabu has earned it.
Yeah, if you can build a deck with many 4-cost cards in there, Zabu will make you smile because you can knock that 1 point off, get him down to a 3, and at the end of the game and your last turn, you can lay out 2 4-pointers for 6 cost at that point.
Like he's made it into my Surfer deck because he makes Wong easier to get.
Mm-hmm.
Now Ravana, I still like Ravana for the eventuality that, say you play 4 games in a row with a Mr. Negative deck and you only draw Mr. Negative on turn 5 in one of those and not at all, then she does make those other cards playable. So he doesn't quite push her out of there, but I think I ended up having both of them in there for 2 chances to get Mr. Negative in. Mm-hmm. Maybe even throwing Psylocke in there at one point. But yeah, Zabu was my MVP.
Nice. Very nice. All right, next up, Mobius M. Mobius, 2 cost, 3 power. Ongoing, your costs can't be increased. Your opponent's costs can be reduced. The hype for this was pretty high when we were talking about this last.
Oh, yeah, that was my number last month target of the season.
Right. I wanted to see the way that it would change the landscape of the game.
I expected it to make me go, wow.
That, my friends, is an Owen Wilson joke. So yeah, I got Mobius and Mobius, and this was one that I actually spent the 3,000 tokens on to get them, which was so nice. I mean, I'm glad that they had that in there.
I think I took 2 shots at a spotlight cache, but yeah, I ended up getting
spending the tokens. Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
My 1,000 tokens from my Ravana spotlight cache helped make that happen.
So I tried a few decks with them. I couldn't find a winner. I could see where sometimes it would affect the other player, but I didn't have enough success to where I was like, okay, this is going to be something that is always in my decks, like a Sunspot or something like that. I did like the wave combo. We mentioned the wave combo, I think, the last time. You watch wave come out there and change everything to 4 cost for you, but there's nothing out there. I thought, yes, okay, I can do this. And I think I pulled off a couple of those combos, and it still wasn't enough to win me the game sometimes. So that's why I was like, oh, okay. How about you?
He wasn't nearly as effective as I thought he would be.
Same here.
And maybe that's just because I didn't find the right way to use him. You know, sometimes it takes. We'll talk later. I had a card that took a little while to blossom. Yeah, I'm trying to think what decks I used him in. I did have him in my anti-Loki deck, which I already said was not that effective. So I did have him in there because I was like, fine, you're going to copy my cards, well, you're going to pay full price for him. Ha ha. I mean, he's worth the 3,000 cost just for the just for the potential. I mean, I can see how he can totally wreck somebody.
He is not Legion.
No.
Legion.
He's not original recipe Spider-Ham or even Spider-Ham 2.0.
That's true.
But now I did have somebody play him on me. I think it was just today. I'm looking and I'm like, wait a minute, I've destroyed like 4 cards. How come Death is still Mobius?
Yep. Mobius.
So yeah, he's useful. I'm glad I got him. But yeah, I had all these like, oh man, Mobius, he's gonna be. It's like him and Luke Cage gonna be in every deck. Him, Luke Cage, and Sunspot, and it's like, not so much.
I think he had a hand in changing the metagame, especially with what you just talked about. The whole, I don't recall seeing Death very often. Mobius gets dropped out there, and now you have a brick in your hand. There's nothing that's going to happen with Death. Those costs are never going to get reduced.
It's based on a comic book, so how effective should Death really be?
Not very. Let's get into locations here. Not much here. Mount Vesuvius. Players can't retreat after turn 5. I didn't play a single... I don't know. I don't think I played a single game that day that it dropped. I was just like, I am not interested in getting aggravated. I don't want to be mad. I decided
but you're still playing Snap.
True. That's true.
I didn't really have much problem with it. I mean, I played that day. I've had it pop up a few times. There were a couple times where I magicked it, although it wasn't necessarily because like, oh, I got to get rid of Mount Vesuvius. It was like, that could be the most potentially annoying location.
Yeah.
I'm still overusing magic.
I don't blame you.
I mean, sometimes I'm like, wait, this only has 6 turns. What? How am I supposed to work with that?
Yeah. Next up was Time Theater. Copy the last card you drew instead of drawing your next card. These 2 locations just were not impactful whatsoever on the season, in my opinion. I mean, they may have fit thematically. Yeah, I understand, but my goodness, they were the least. When we talk about this upcoming season's location, holy cow! There's one in there where I'm like, this is going to affect the game.
You talking about the return of Fogwell's Gym?
Yes. Oh my goodness. So many people. It's going to be crazy. It was Time Theater. Okay. I got the card. I got a second card, which whoop-de-woo. What about you?
Yeah. I mean, it depended on the card. I wish I could think of a specific example. There were 1 or 2 times where I was like, oh, cool, I got an extra one. And then other times where I was like, oh, I kind of wish I could have drawn a card. Yeah. So, I mean, that's not a bad location. The potential to affect something, but not guaranteed one way or the other.
Thanks a lot for joining us. Make sure to tune in tomorrow for the next installment of Snap Material.